Welcome back, Time Crunch fans and TDFF fans. I'm your host, Coach Adam Pulford, with me again for all these special editions of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift episodes is my co-host, Renee Eastman. Welcome back.
Good morning, Adam. Hey, everyone.
Good morning. So if you, the listener, have been joining us for the past stages, thank you so much, and we hope you're enjoying it. And if you're enjoying it that much, please share it with a friend or a training partner, as that helps to grow the show even more. If you have any questions directly for us on all things Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, women's racing, training, physiology, feel free to drop the comments in the sections on IG or YouTube, or head over to trainwright.com/podcast and click on Ask a Training Question. Those questions get sent directly to me, and Renee and I will do our best to answer it on a future episode. So for anyone new that's just jumping in, welcome to you. Coach Renee and I are here to give you the best podcast that we possibly can, that not only recaps the women's tour, but we also weave in coaching and training tips that you can apply to your own training, or you can just learn more and appreciate from the women's peloton. So Renee, can you give us a stage recap for stage 5?
I sure can, Adam. And it was a doozy today. We expected a little bit of GC action. It did not disappoint. I'm going to start with my when to watch alert. The last 25, 30K is real racing. So you want to devote a little bit of time to this race today. Let me start with, there are a lot of abandons today. We would take the whole podcast to name them all. There's at least 6 or 7 riders either crashed out, illness, including our Olympic champion, Kristen Faulkner. It was pretty clear yesterday that she wasn't feeling well. We knew she was a little sick. I saw on her Instagram she was sick right before the tour started. So anyway, on to the race action. It was pretty chaotic. There's tailwind at the start. There was tons of attacking. There were so many breaks that I'm not going to go through them all. The main break of the day, though, was Brody Chapman, Francesca Barali, and Catalina Soto in Dijkstra. And Alison Jackson made the break again. So she was out there working hard. They established about 80K to go, about halfway through the race. The max lead they got was 3.5 minutes. But once the climb started with about 30 odd K to go, 35K to go, the gap came down pretty quick. And AJ got the first climb, but I did see she started suffering pretty hard on the second climb.
She was absolutely dying, and you could see that for sure.
she was all over the place on the bike. I felt bad for her because we've all been there, just dying, slow death.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brody Chapman was the last one of the break, but she eventually got kind of swept up by a little flurry of attacks off the front of the field. They were off for a while, but it wasn't going anywhere. These were all people who were like opportunists. Like none of the GC contenders were attacking at that point. They were saving it for the last climb. And by the last climb, the field was down to 20. It was small. It was every climb people dumped off the back. It wasn't like anybody was attacking. It was just like the pace was so hard that people were falling off the back. And as expected, that last climb was fireworks. That bonus sprint came right before the top. But Kim LaCourte got it.
I was going to say, I think LaCourte, PFP, I think maybe second.
Yeah.
For the time.
Well, in Cassio's up there too. They went for it.
And I think Damie was the only one that didn't get a time bonus, I believe, if I recall. Yep.
And after they went through that bonus, it's only a few people left at the front now. And as expected, it was a select group of riders going over the top. There was 7 people. They ended up going all to the finish. No surprises in that group. Sarah Gigante, probably the best climber, maybe other than Demi in the race. Kim LaCourte, Pinar, Cassia, PFP, Demi, Anna van der Bergen, and Paulina Royackers. We haven't talked about her much because she's fairly quiet, except she did finish on the podium of the Tour last year. So she's no joke. Anyway, all GC favorites, totally what we expected. They ripped down that descent. I expected that. And I am still shaking because Cassia was full send on that. I don't know what you thought. I thought she was taking too many risks.
I mean, I liked it. I personally, I love aggressive racing. I love descending. And when you're risking it, you got to send it. I know Cassia has also been working on her descending skills this past year. If you follow her on Instagram, if you follow Taylor Finney, you can see that the intentionality of working on some of that descending. So yes, I loved it, but yeah, she was like skipping like both wheels through a few corners. I'm like, whoa. And PFP is like no slouch on the descent. You can see her, like the announcers were like, "Oh, Pauline's getting gapped." I think Pauline was just like playing it like normal, and Cassia was ripping. So you could see it come back together at the very end of the descent. But yeah, I liked it, but it was kind of nerve wracking.
Everybody made it down safely. That group of 7 came down to the sprint, and the one who's been the best finisher of this group all week, Kim Lacourt Pinard, won the stage. Nearly didn't because she celebrated early.
We were texting back and forth like, "Did you get it? Did you get it?" Oh, no. I'm like, I went to set up.
This is a tip to all you all out there. Yeah. Do not raise your hands before you cross the finish line.
Yes.
Or just don't raise your hands.
But if you're from Mauritius, that's maybe what they do there. I don't
know. Just because it's so embarrassing when you lose the race by celebrating early. But she didn't. Yeah. She won the race.
She knew she had it. Like she was the snappiest. She knew she had it. She was confident and celebrated.
Demi was second, so looking good after that crash. My pick for the day, Anna van der Breggen, third. So I'm pretty pleased with my pick. The end result of that is like a total reshuffle of the GC. Kim Lacourt's in yellow, and then we've got in the top 5 Pauline, Demi, Cassia, Anna van der Breggen, and they're all within 30 seconds. Those are the logical top 5 to be up there. So it should be a pretty good race because the next few days, and we'll talk about tomorrow soon, now we're getting into the mountains. Yeah. And just finally, no changes in green or the polka dots or the white jersey. Those are all status quo.
Whew. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's a big recap there, Renee. Holy moly! And I didn't get a chance to look at the GC just before we hopped on here, but I'm going to go and check to see where Van der Breggen is because I'm curious.
She's in fifth, about 27 seconds down, I think.
Okay.
And after all that, Adam, I need to take a break. So let me pass it over to you. I want you to introduce our guest contributor today. We both wanted an expert to talk about women's racing, some of the changes in women's racing, and we found a very qualified person to tell us about that.
Yes. Miss Alison Tetrick is our lead person on that, and she is a CTS athlete. I've been working with her for almost 10 years now, and before that, Dean Golich was her coach, and I talk about Dean on this podcast quite a bit. But she's a former Pro Tour racer, and she has a bronze medal at the UCI World Time Trial Championships. She's also the Queen of Gravel, winning the Gravel World Championships twice. And back in 2022, she was inducted into the Gravel Hall of Fame. So she's a thing. She's also, I mentioned she is a co-host on the Move Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift podcast. But in her spare time from bikes and all that kind of stuff, she's a molecular biologist. So crazy, right? And she's always had a side hustle doing what she's doing. And it's a good reminder of how like the women's, peloton has really changed over the years because teams and salaries have grown to the point now where having a side hustle or an extra job isn't always necessary, though there's only a few making, millions at the top. So let's listen to what Alison has to say about how this sport has evolved since she's been in the pro peloton.
Now you're looking at some major things that have happened in professional cycling that have made a big difference in increasing the professionalism. I mean, we have minimum salaries. Of course, it's lower than the men's, but there is a minimum salary for World Tour teams to be able to enter that status, which I think is really huge. My first pro contract I got, I think I had to buy my bike at the end of the year. And then I topped out at the end of my career, doing quite well. But there's a lot of that still. But I think now you're looking at superstars like Demi Vollering, who's making over €1 million a year, signing deals with Nike and being an incredible spokesperson for women's cycling. And that is just through the visibility that women's cycling is getting, women's sports in general. You look at this entire movement with soccer, and of course the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift is huge, just where I believe visibility is viability. So the more you watch women's sports, the more women win.
Ali really said it best. Visibility equals viability. And things have changed. She mentioned the minimum salaries. In 2020, the UCI established minimum salaries for women. Because before that, you didn't have to pay them anything. A lot of women were making maybe 10 grand a year, maybe up to 40 grand a year. It's some making a little bit more than that. But just to put it in perspective for you guys, the minimum salaries range from $42,000 to about $70,000 at the World Tour. So that's the FDJ, SD Works. Now, that's the minimum salaries. You know, there's room. She's made comment that there's rumors that Demi's making as much as $1 million. I don't know if I believe that, because the rumors about like what the biggest stars are making, Kopecky and Wiebes and even Voss, are around the $300,000 mark, and those are the like primo stars. And just to put it in perspective, even on the men's side, they had those same minimum salaries, but like even if you're a domestique, like schlepping bottles, you're making 150 or maybe even $250,000. You know, anybody whose name you've heard of is making well over 500,000, and then the top names are like 3-4 million. You know, your Primos Roglics and your Wout van Aerts, and I think Pogacar is making like 9 million or something. So, you know, cycling's not a very high paying sport as professional sports go, but you know, even compared to the men and the women are like not even halfway there. So we have a long way to go, but it's progress, so that these women on the world tour now, they don't have to have jobs to make a living. But it is a good point that most of these women are educated, either went to school before they became a professional cyclist, or maybe even had a career before they had came to professional cycling. I can think of a couple off the top of our head that we already mentioned, like Elise Shabby's a doctor, Marlon Rooser's a doctor, Kristen Faulkner was a venture capitalist. You know, these women either have had careers before or going into often careers after, because even though things are better, you can't retire off of 70 grand a year. You can barely pay your mortgage on that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'll chime in here and just say that, like, having coached now for years and having, athletes like Ali go from pro tour to professional person, helping them like bridge that gap in the way, taking what we learn from the bike and applying it to business or applying it to life. That's something that I now like try to instill into my like juniors. And even when they're 18 and they're getting fired up about their first, big team contract and all this kind of stuff, I'll always say, yeah, but let's like, honestly, let's finish the degree, because you're only going to be a bike racer for so long, hopefully until you're 41, like Mavi Garcia. Right. But like at some point you're going to hang it up, and at some point you need to move beyond. And there is actually a huge market. People love to hire strong women and men that know how to take that winning mentality from athletics and be able to apply it to the sales team that they're on, or the CEO position that they're going to apply for, or something like that. So it's like kind of woven throughout my, and I don't know, hopefully my juniors listen to me, but it's like, okay, what did you learn out there today? You know what I mean? And then I try to like weave it into life. So I feel like maybe I'm not a parent, but I sometimes feel like it, because I'm like, I want you to learn these lessons.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were making a lot of money, maybe you are Demi and you are making that $1 million. An accident, an injury can end your career.
It's huge, I think, in any sport, men's and women's, to look beyond just the sport itself, because athletes, you have a time, you have a lifespan in that sport, but you have a lifespan that grows beyond the sport. So I think she nailed it on a few things in that video. Let's go to the next video, where she talks about Kim LaCourte-Panair, and she's got a great story there. Not only is it today's stage winner, but she also retook the yellow jersey. So let's see what Allie had to say about Kim LaCourte.
Kim LaCourte, and she was actually racing La Course with me in 2014 on a different team, and she was making zero salary. She was worried about how she was going to eat. She comes from this South Africa at the time, but also from Mauritius, a tiny island, 2,000 miles outside in the Indian Ocean. And she just didn't think it was sustainable for her to become a professional cyclist. So she stopped for a while. And now she pled, and her husband and her wrote letters to every single World Tour team. In 2024, she signed with AQ Insurance Sudal, and then of course won Amstel Gold, and then also wore the leader's jersey already here at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. So that's just showing you where, first of all, you can dream and try really hard, but the level of professionalism is just getting higher and higher.
What a story. Wow. Amazing. It just goes to show progress isn't just about paychecks or podiums. It's about beliefs. Stories like Kim's tells us what's possible if you keep going. She's not only the first African stage winner of the Tour de France Femmes, she's also the first yellow jersey from Africa from the Tour de France Femmes. Now for the second time, because she took the jersey back today.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, and I think that you can dream big. If you don't do anything with it, you won't go anywhere. But if you dream big, you try hard, you try again, and you believe in yourself, and you got people around you who believe in you, and you keep on working, then the dream starts to become reality.
Yeah. Well, things have changed a lot in the last 10 years since Kim LaCourte was making $0 and couldn't find a team and almost gave up on her dream. And I mentioned since 2020 and the UCI minimum salaries came in, other things have also kind of come along. Really high profile races like Paris-Roubaix, like the Tour de France Femmes. With that, the higher visibility, more eyeballs on it, more sponsorships means more money coming into the sport, which means the teams are bigger. And that's been a dramatic change in the women's peloton over the last few years. We've been talking a little bit about Anna van der Breggen. She retired back in 2021. Then she's coming back out of retirement this year to try to dominate again. And while she's still very, very good, now there's a whole crop of people who are as good as she is, if not even better. And in our next video, Allie's going to talk a little bit about how the level of the sport has changed in the last few years.
The level has gotten so much higher. And I think that's because more people are investing in the sport. Of course, the professionalism is going up because there's more money in the sport. The teams are getting bigger. They're getting more analytical on training and providing these things like altitude camps, the best bikes, the best nutrition plans, the best coaches. Adam's the best coach in my opinion. And so that's an interesting thing to look at. So this woman, Anna, writes top of her game in 2021, and she's coming back 4 years later going, it's even gotten better then. So I think it's really exciting. I mean, of course, there's a long way to go, but we have to start somewhere. And at one point, I would like to see us talking about just the bike race, not talking about how far women's cycling has come, but just being like, look at this badass bike race.
She's definitely right. This is a badass bike race. What we're seeing out there is not just good racing, it's like next level. We've been talking about it all week. It's like so competitive. Just look at that front group today. 7 ladies who I think any one of them could win. We'll see who does. But a few years ago, it was like the Annemiek van Vleuten show, where just she would ride off the front and everybody else was fighting for second. So it's great to see the depth and the level come up. It's really evolved. And I know you've coached Allie for a long time, and through kind of the progression of low budget teams to higher budget teams, and now you're coaching athletes on the world tour at the very best teams like Alison Jackson on EF Oatley. And I just wondered what you see as the differences at that world tour level now, like just simply the level of professionalism.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that the evolution is positive. I think, paying these women more is really positive, and they're still lower than they should, in my opinion. But they're evolving to where the men are going, and that's great. I think the infrastructure, like the model is built on the men's model of sorts, where the men's model, now has soigneurs and chefs and high performance directors and lowly coaches every once in a while, like myself. As well as, DSs that instead of being like from the men's peloton that used to race, or some, friend of a friend directing, now it's former pro tour women that are coming on and being directing. So I think that like it's evolving in a very positive way. The contracts are getting bigger, and the athletes themselves, they have agents to negotiate that is helping it to make it more professional as well. Meanwhile, I think I mentioned either yesterday's episode, I think, where a lot of teams are working with, coaches, directors, and soigneurs kind of all in house, which is awesome, because it that does create a great environment to where athletes can grow and have good success and more stable, as opposed to just like going and doing your own thing for 6 to 8 months out of the year, coming and racing for a little bit here and there and hoping that there's a mechanic. That's where it was not too long ago. So at the world tour level, it is blossom nicely. It's going to continue to grow. I believe in that. And it's going to keep on growing if, viewers keep on watching it, keep on getting to the races, keep on investing in saying that we want to watch this more. So the more eyes that are on it, the more, sponsors and media outlets and more podcasts like this are going to happen, right? To just keep on spreading that word and growing the message and saying, yeah, we care about this. So keep putting more out there. So I think that's a positive.
Yeah. And Allie has a last little contribution for us. And I think she really wraps it up way better than I or you could say it. So let's let her talk about what this moment really means.
It's just a big thanks to companies like Zwift, which are the title sponsor, not only of my show On the Move, but the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, where they believe in the value and the ROI of investing in women's sports. And they can actually see the more they invest, they can actually get that ROI in their company. So I think that's pretty fascinating. I'm super proud of all these ladies out there racing. And the discrepancies are quite large between some of the smaller teams and the larger teams. But to have that opportunity to compete at the world's biggest race for women's cycling on the biggest stage, creating sponsorship dollars, storytelling, it's huge. So this is only the beginning. It's going to keep going up. But one day we're not going to be like, what does women's cycling need more? How can it be more professional? It's just going to be, look at this amazing professional sport that's sustainable, viable, and completely worth it for every athlete to compete in or dream about, because that's also what we're seeing. We're seeing young girls watching this race, and today we had this young woman that was practicing Marianne Voss's salute, and And so really, like, if you can see it, you can believe it. And with that increase of professionalism, that's exactly what's happening. So
visibility equals viability. And, you know, for every little girl out there watching now, they can dream about having a yellow jersey. That didn't exist before. That didn't exist when I was a kid. That didn't exist when Allie was a kid, you know, and it didn't exist before 4 years ago. So, like, if you see it, you can believe it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Strong message, and I love it. I love to see where the sport's going. So, with that said, Renee, I'd say let's talk about tomorrow's stage.
Adam, this race is gonna be shook up again tomorrow because now we are gonna head into the proper mountains in stage 6. My note before today is gonna say tomorrow is the first real GC day, when I think today was, but tomorrow will be as well. The climbing starts about 30 kilometers in. There's a couple of smaller category 3 climbs, but the big climb of the day is the 10 kilometer Col de Belle. And after that, there's only a short descent till you get to the category 2 climb after that. And those two back-to-back climbs are going to separate the field. Now, those big mountains top out with about 30K to go, and the run-in is not flat. There's a kind of uncategorized climb in there. It's a little lumpy roll into the finish. I have no idea who's going to win. So I'm going to pick Puck Peterson.
Yeah, that's a good pick. But she wasn't there today, Renee.
I know.
She wasn't there today.
But now she's going to, they're going to give her some leash now. She lost some time today.
If they give her leash, yes, but I would say for how fiery and aggressive and I mean really all the GCs were up there today, I imagine that it's going to be something similar to that. And I'm gonna cross fingers and hope that my girl PFP does it again. That's probably going to be my pick overall. But Damie was coming in hot, so she finished well today. Good snap. They're all climbing really well. Puck's a good pick. I'm gonna hang my hat on Pauline. So
yeah, I think you're right. It's probably gonna be just those same 5, 6, 7 gals up the front. You're probably right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be tuning in tomorrow because it is going to be an exciting stage. But we'll wrap it up here for today. And special thanks to Alison Tetrick for taking time to make that video while she's over in Aspen doing the Move podcast with Lance and good friend Mari, who spoiler alert, you'll probably hear Mari Holden come on the podcast here in a few days talking about what it means to be a director and athlete and all that kind of stuff, but we'll save that for later. So special thanks to Tetrick for that content and Renee for making this happen once again. And of course, to everybody listening, our audience, you are crushing it. We're getting over 10,000 views on Instagram and YouTube. Again, keep on sharing that because it's gonna grow and it's only gonna help the women's Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift even grow even more. So thank you for that. And Renee, we keep on going. I think I need a gel or some tart cherry juice at this point.
Me too, Adam. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Renee.